Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Rode Wireless Go 2 and the two microphones, and that's the two transmitters and the receiver. On the screen here I have the Rode app, which I've downloaded from Rode, from their website, and I've installed it and I've plugged in my devices. You can have them all plugged in together. You need to get your cords all plugged into USB ports. If you can plug them directly to the computer, well, that's best. But if not, I've got a system whereby I can get them all plugged in. I've got so many outlets, it's just not funny. But they sometimes don't work together, they don't play nicely together occasionally. However, a little bit of jiggling around and plugging, knowing which one to plug in first, and that will vary, I've noticed. So, but I tend to plug in the transmitters first and then plug in the receiver afterward. And that works. And the receiver can be on your camera and plugged into your camera at the same time, it doesn't matter. Okay, and here we have them now that they're plugged in. They're all here on the screen. And I just want to show you something on here before we go too far. So clicking on it on your receiver will bring up this menu of things that you can do. Your backlight, you can have it on or off, or whatever you want to do with that. You can have your gain mode set to fine or camera or coarse. And so if you're on a GoPro 9, as I am, GoPro 9 has no audio control on it. So you can't put it on camera because it's just not going to happen. It's just going to be flat, standard. So if you want to have some control, then do this. If you don't want to have any control, just plug it into your, and leave it on camera, and whatever you get, you get. We like to have a little bit more control over it, so you can go coarse, and that's for the beginner, or you can go fine, which is for, I'll show you the difference. Okay, so if you go to coarse, over here you're in mid, high, low. Okay, so that's low will be 24, that's negative 24, and mid would be negative 12, and high would be 0. Okay, so audio always works in the negative. And so 0 is your normal sound, which is quite loud. I've got this system set to split. You can have whichever you want, but if you're going to use two microphones, then I would suggest you go with split, and each microphone does its own recording, and I'll show you how to set that up in a moment. The safety channel only works if you are in the merged mode. Then you can have your safety channel on or off. So we're going to go for the split mode, in which case you don't have the safety channel. However, you are still recording. Now, I thought that you had to have that on in order to record to each of the transmitters. I'm just unplugging one of the transmitters to show you. That's turned off at the moment because it's got no blue lights on it. There's two blue lights over here. If I take this off, and I'll show you, you can see that that's your audio and your battery. Okay, and this has two little pimples on it, two little knobs that you plug in over the microphone and give it a twist, and it locks it in place. There we go, that's locked in place now. And to turn them on, you've got to press and hold until the blue lights come on. There you go, there's the two blue lights coming on there. Now you can release. And so that's how you turn on all of these Rode devices. You press and hold until, and it's the power button, okay, which is that 0 with a line through it, which anybody who's been in computers for any length of time knows that that's what a 0 is. Anything else is an O, not a 0. Okay, I'm going to turn that off because you want it off when you plug it into the computer. Okay, so I'm going to plug that into the computer using the USB-C, and it brings up a box automatically on my PC. I don't know what it's going to do on a Mac. I haven't plugged it into Mac. I've got Macs, but I'm not going to go there. Okay, I'm talking about Windows 10 PC, desktop. And the same thing will happen on the laptop as well. Okay, here are the recordings. I've made 3 recordings, and I've played these recordings external to the GoPro. I've actually used Wondershare to listen to the recording. So the last one I did, this is recording number 3. I just double click on it. It'll open the file in a moment and I can hear it. This is round 2. Now this is the GoPro's recording. Happy with that? Okay, so that is now that's external to the program. I go into the program. Let's just go out of our receiver and we're going to go to our transmitter. This is transmitter number 2 because I've just been through all the settings on here. The backlight is what it is. Oh, you can set up a marker as well, which I'm not really going to go into, but this is not a really in-depth description of how to set up your Rode microphones and that sort of thing. All this is a quick and dirty how to get yourself going and how to get yourself out of trouble if you've mucked up your settings somehow. How to correct them. And so you've got your backlight, that's half strength, so it's very dim. Marker, it's not going to let me go any brighter than that, so that's bright. Marker and brightness. And that's on the backlight of the receiver. That's not the transmitter. Transmitter you can do a little bit more with in that regard. So let's get out of that. We're going to go to number 2 because that's the one that's on the top there. Now it says to me, click a recording to get started. So if I want to listen to number 3, it'll bring it up here and I can scroll just by moving that. You see that blue line that's there, that's your playhead. And you don't move the playhead, you move the recording backwards and forwards across it. And I will play this for you as well. So I'm going to save this recording so that you can hear it when I'm doing, and I might put a couple of them together here just to show you the differences. Okay, now the microphones are transmitters and the wireless Go2 receiver goes onto the camera. So, okay, and that'll do for that. Now, if you click on the setup button over here, you can see where my mouse is. You can actually go in here and you can turn this backup off, in which case it will not record to these. Let's do it with this one. That will not record to the transmitter. The transmitter is where the recordings are. Each transmitter has its backup recording in the transmitter. Now, if you're anything like me, you would have thought that it was in the receiver, that it was restoring these. It's not. It's in the transmitter that it's storing them. About 7 hours worth is what you get out of each of those, which is really good when I consider that I get an hour and a half out of my DJI. Okay, so that's a major advantage that the Rode have, the Roadies have, but they've got to be line of sight, okay, for them to work properly. Must be line of sight. And if you have a body in between, you're going to lose it. Whereas you can actually do sporting with these DJIs. They will, and you can have bodies running around in a sporting field, so you can have one person on one side of the sporting field, another person on the other side, and it's going to transmit and it's going to receive quite perfectly well, but there is no backup. So your backup to record over here. This is the sensitivity of the microphone, turning the sensitivity on or off. If the microphone's too sensitive, you turn this on and that reduces the sensitivity, okay? I wouldn't use it if you can help it, because I'll just pop back into the receiver to show you. In the receiver, we were talking about our coarse and our high gain and that sort of thing. If you go to fine, you can check your gain. 0 is the loudest that you can have it, so it's going to be very sensitive, pick up everything, which is probably too much. I'm going to go back because it's very hard to turn this around on here. As you can see now, I need to go to low to get it back to 0. That's coarse. Go to fine. Oh, it's on 25. You can turn it up or down on the computer. You can't do that on the actual Rode. So I'm not getting into that. You need to watch somebody else's video, or I might do one a little bit more in depth later on, how to adjust those settings and that sort of thing from the receiver. But right now I'm just going to concentrate on doing the application. So you've got it all plugged in, and this is how you adjust things. And we've gone through the split screen and the backlight and all that. So let's go back to our transmitters, and we were on transmitter 2, so that if you press the button once, that's your power button on your transmitter, it will mute the transmitter. So if you're recording like we do when we go for a ride and we've got 2 people on recumbents and we're talking and we've got the camera going and that sort of, and we stop somewhere for a toilet break, you want that muted. So it can be muted from either the receiver or from the transmitter. So the person wearing the transmitter should mute it, and no, it can't be overridden, but it can be muted from either or both. So that's what I would do with that. And of course you're going to check it in post anyway, so you're not going to let anything like that get through, but you don't want to be actually listening to somebody else going to the bathroom in post when you're editing the video anyway, you know. So so it's best to say to the person, you know, make sure that you turn it on to mute. Just press your button once and that'll mute, and check with the person who's got the camera to make sure that it's actually showing that it has been muted. Okay, because you might think that you muted and you haven't. So it's just a quick, short, sharp press. A long press will actually turn the microphone right off, which is not a bad thing too. You can turn the microphone right off, go and do your business, come out, remember to turn the microphone back on again. So we're going to leave the LEDs as bright, because very often it's during the day you're turning them on, and it's hard enough knowing when you're recording and you're not. Right. Your broadcast quality is compressed or uncompressed. I would go uncompressed, okay? Compression means that it's going to take similar sounds and combine them as one sound, and you don't want that. You want as much flexibility as you can get, and so that you've got something to play with in post and you can adjust it. Otherwise you've got nothing to adjust in post. You've got to adjust it and you lose it. So always uncompressed wherever. Yes, it uses more memory and that sort of thing, but it's way better than trying to, because if you haven't got it, there's no way of getting it. Whereas if you've got too much of it, it's easy to cut some out and get rid of it or reduce it. So always go for more. More is better in this case. So that's what we're doing with those. That's how you set them up. And when you do them, make sure that you set them both up the same. So have a look. Okay, so that's really it on how to set your microphones up. And if you're having trouble with your system, with any of the devices, the first thing that you will do is you'll come here and you will go to your diagnostics. So you will make sure that your device clock time is set correctly. So you'll hit the refresh button here, which is not going to make any changes. And you can also run a diagnostics. And it'll run diagnostics. I have all my devices ready. It'll tell you to unplug them and plug them in one at a time. And it'll run the diagnostics on each of them. So we don't want to go there. It says please disconnect all Rode wireless devices from your computer, and then it'll tell you to connect them one at a time as it runs through the diagnostics. And once you've started the diagnostics and you've determined that there is a problem of sorts, so if you've got any problems, you will be given the option to reset them back to factory. But that'll only happen after you run the diagnostics. You can't go there before you've run the diagnostics. You can also download your firmware and upgrade your firmware and do that from here. But I would always keep optional firmware updates ticked on and ready to go. And that's all there is to it.